If you take vitamin B12 every morning, there is something important you need to understand before you continue doing it the same way. For many people over 60, this habit feels responsible, even protective. It's something you add to your routine because you want to support your energy, your memory, and your overall well-being. And in many ways, that intention is absolutely right. But there is a detail that almost no one talks about, and it can completely change how your body responds to that supplement. Right now, in thousands of people who are doing everything they believe is correct, there is a quiet process happening inside the body. It doesn't cause pain. It doesn't interrupt your day. There is no obvious signal that something is off. But over time, it can begin to place unnecessary strain on your cardiovascular system in a way that most routine checkups do not clearly show. What makes this especially important is that it often happens in people who are consistent, careful, and proactive about their health. People who take their supplements regularly, follow their prescriptions, and believe they are supporting their body in the best possible way. The issue is not the intention. The issue is the combination. Because when vitamin B12 is taken alongside certain commonly prescribed medications, especially after the age of 60, the way your body processes it can change. Instead of working smoothly within your system, it may begin to interact differently with other processes, particularly those related to circulation and vascular health. And what makes this even more surprising is that standard blood tests often do not clearly reveal this interaction. Everything may appear normal on the surface, while deeper processes are quietly shifting over time. Today we are going to walk through exactly what is happening, why it matters, and what simple adjustments can help your body use B12 in a way that actually supports you instead of working against you. Before we go deeper into the details, it helps to understand why vitamin B12 becomes such an important part of many routines after the age of 60. As the body changes over time, the ability to absorb certain nutrients becomes less efficient. This is a natural part of aging. The digestive system becomes more selective, stomach acid levels may change, and the mechanisms that transport nutrients into the bloodstream do not always work as smoothly as they once did. Because of this, many people are encouraged to supplement with B12, and for good reason. It plays a role in supporting energy production, maintaining nerve function, and helping the body manage certain processes related to circulation. When levels are low, people may feel more fatigued, less mentally sharp, or generally less energetic. So adding B12 feels like a smart and logical step, and in many cases it is. But here is where the situation becomes more complex. The body does not simply need B12 to be present. It needs B12 to be properly absorbed, transported, and used in coordination with other nutrients and systems. When that process is disrupted, the presence of B12 alone does not guarantee benefit. In fact, under certain conditions, it may create imbalances in how the body handles other compounds that are closely connected to cardiovascular function. This is where many people are left without clear guidance. They are told to take the supplement, but not how their body may respond to it in combination with medications or other factors that are already part of their daily routine. To make this clearer, let's look at a situation that reflects what many people experience without realizing it. Imagine someone who has been consistent with their routine for years. They take their medications as prescribed, they include supplements they believe are helpful, and they try to stay active and mindful of their health. Over time, however, they begin to notice subtle changes. Not dramatic symptoms, but a general sense that their energy is not what it used to be. They may feel more drained than expected, even after rest. It is easy to assume that this is simply part of getting older. But sometimes these changes are connected to how different elements of their routine are interacting inside the body. One of the most common situations involves medications that affect how nutrients are absorbed or processed. These medications are often necessary and effective for their intended purpose, but they can also influence how certain vitamins behave in the body over time. When B12 is added into this environment, especially in higher amounts, the interaction becomes more complex. The body may not process it in the way most people expect. Instead of being used efficiently, it may contribute to an imbalance in a process that is closely related to circulation. This is not something that happens overnight, and it is not something that produces immediate warning signs. But over time, it becomes more relevant, especially when the same routine is followed consistently without adjustments. One of the most important pieces to understand in this entire discussion is how your body actually handles vitamin B12 once it enters your system. Many people assume that taking a supplement automatically means their body is receiving and using it effectively. But the process is far more involved than that, especially after the age of 60. When you consume B12, Whether from food or a supplement, it does not immediately become available for your body to use. It first needs to be released, then bound to a specific protein in your stomach, and then transported through your digestive system in a very controlled way. This protein acts like a delivery system, ensuring that B12 reaches the parts of your body where it is actually needed. Over time, certain medications can interfere with this process, making that delivery system less reliable. When that happens, the body may show normal or even elevated levels of B12 in the blood, but that does not necessarily mean it is being used properly at the cellular level. This distinction is extremely important because it explains why some people continue to feel low energy or off balance despite taking supplements consistently. What's happening beneath the surface is that the B12 is present, but it is not being fully utilized, and when that happens, it begins to affect another process in the body that is closely tied to circulation and overall cardiovascular function. This is where the situation becomes more complex and where many people are left without clear answers, because standard tests do not always reflect what is happening at this deeper level. Now let's focus on one of the most common medications that plays a role in this interaction, and this is something many people are already familiar with. It is widely used, often prescribed for long periods of time, and in many cases, it is very effective for its intended purpose. However, what is less commonly discussed is how it affects nutrient absorption over time. This medication can gradually influence how your digestive system handles certain vitamins, particularly B12. It does this by interfering with the natural mechanisms your body relies on to transport and absorb this nutrient. At first, the effect may be minimal and go completely unnoticed, but over time, as the body continues to rely on this altered system, the difference becomes more significant. This is often when people are advised to take a B12 supplement to compensate. And again, this seems logical. If absorption is reduced, adding more should solve the problem. But here is where things do not always work as expected. The body may not simply absorb more because more is available. Instead, it may begin to accumulate forms of the vitamin that are not fully active or not being used efficiently. This creates a situation where the numbers on a blood test may look acceptable, but the underlying process is not functioning optimally. And this is where many people feel confused, because they are doing what they have been told, but they are not experiencing the results they expected. To understand why this matters, we need to look at a compound in the body that is closely connected to how B12 functions. This compound is naturally produced and is part of normal metabolism. Under balanced conditions, your body uses B vitamins, including B12, to process it and keep it within a healthy range. But when the process is disrupted, this compound can begin to build up over time. And this is where the concern begins. When levels become elevated, it can start to affect the inner lining of your blood vessels in a gradual but meaningful way. This does not happen suddenly, and it does not produce immediate symptoms. Instead, it is a slow process that develops over time, often without clear warning signs. The inner surface of your blood vessels is designed to remain smooth and flexible, allowing blood to flow efficiently. But when this balance is disrupted, that surface can become less stable. It may become more sensitive, less flexible, and more prone to changes that affect circulation. This is not something that is typically discussed in routine conversations about supplements, but it is an important part of the bigger picture. Because when B12 is not being properly processed, it can contribute to this imbalance instead of helping regulate it. Another category of medications that plays a significant role in this process is one that many people take for digestive comfort. These medications are designed to reduce stomach acid, which can be helpful in managing certain conditions. However, stomach acid also plays an important role in breaking down nutrients, including B12. When acid levels are reduced over long periods of time, the body may have a harder time releasing B12 from food sources. This can lead to lower natural absorption, which again often leads to supplementation. But just like in the previous situation, adding more does not always solve the underlying issue. Instead, it can create a situation where the body is receiving B12 in a form or amount that it cannot fully process. This creates variability in how the body handles the nutrient, sometimes absorbing it more effectively, sometimes less. Over time, this inconsistency can contribute to the same type of imbalance we discussed earlier. And what makes this particularly challenging is that it often develops without clear symptoms. People may feel generally fine, continue their routine, and never realize that these interactions are happening in the background. At this point, everything begins to connect. The combination of reduced absorption, altered processing, and long-term supplementation creates a situation where the body is not operating in balance. One of the most important indicators of this imbalance is something that is not usually included in standard testing. It requires a specific request, and many people have never had it measured. This is why it often goes unnoticed. When levels remain outside of an optimal range for extended periods, the effects begin to show up in subtle ways. Circulation may not feel as efficient, energy levels may fluctuate, and overall resilience may not feel as strong as it once did. Again, these changes are often attributed to aging, but in some cases they are connected to how the body is processing nutrients in combination with medications. The key point here is awareness. When you understand that this interaction exists, you can begin to make small adjustments that support your body more effectively. The good news is that this situation is not about eliminating something important from your routine. It is about using it in a way that aligns with how your body functions now. Vitamin B12 remains essential, especially as you get older. The goal is not to remove it, but to make sure your body can actually use it properly. One of the most effective steps is to look at the form of B12 you are taking. Some forms require additional processing steps in the body before they become active, while others are already in a form that your body can use more directly. Choosing a form that is easier for your body to process can make a meaningful difference. Another important factor is the amount. More is not always better, especially when the body's ability to absorb and process nutrients has changed. A more moderate and targeted approach often works better over time. And finally, supporting nutrients that work alongside B12 can help maintain balance in the processes we have discussed. This creates a more complete and supportive approach rather than relying on a single element. The most important thing to remember is that your body is not failing you. It is simply responding to the combination of factors that are part of your current routine. When you understand how those factors interact, you gain the ability to make adjustments that support your system more effectively. This is not about creating fear or removing things that are helpful. It is about using them in a way that truly benefits your body. Small changes in how you approach supplementation, especially in combination with medications, can lead to meaningful improvements over time. More stability, better balance, and a greater sense of control over your health. And often, these changes begin with something as simple as understanding what is happening beneath the surface.